Mark Skaar on the Skaar Kaard on 103.7 The Fox. Proud to bring in legendary drummer Michael Bland from Soul Asylum. Michael, thanks for joining us.
No problem, Mark.
Is the laugh because I called you legendary?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm just a local. You know how it is. It's I mean, I've been a fixture of the Minneapolis music scene since I was probably 16 years old, 15 to 16. So, I mean, it's just, no matter what happens, all roads lead back to Minneapolis. That's how I ended up in Soul Asylum. I was working with an Italian artist for a few years, from probably 97 through about 2003. And somewhere in the middle of 2004 was my first contact with the band. Mm-hmm. And they inquired about me being a musician for hire for their first record after their 8-year hiatus, which was The Silver Lining.
Right.
And so I was just supposed to come on and be a studio musician. And somewhere in the middle of the rehearsals for the recording, working up the material, Dave Pirner just stops us, like right in the middle of the song, and says, "Hey, man, why don't you just join the band, man?" and it's the quickest decision I think I ever made in my life. I took a few seconds, and I said, "Okay." And 15 years later, I'm still doing it.
Right, yeah. This is your fourth album with the band. It's called Hurry Up and Wait. It just came out via Blue Elin Records. And, Michael, I was at your show right after Christmas, the one you do every year at First Avenue, and it was jam-packed to the rafters. It was a great time, nice and hot and sweaty, and a lot of songs that are on this record I heard at that night, and I thought, boy, this is going to be great stuff. And lo and behold, here it is, and I was right on, and congratulations on this new one.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We worked pretty hard on it, I mean, but it was the process felt natural. We didn't fly out to L.A. to cut it. We cut it right in Minneapolis, right on East Street, down on Nicollet. And it's just kind of, for Dave, I think it was a familiar place, and it took him, back to his youth in kind of a way. It was just such a familiar spot. And also, when you record out of town, you go back to a hotel somewhere. You don't just, go home and sleep in your own bed and get in a familiar environment. So I think that the proximity had something to do with the ease of which things came together.
Talking with Michael Bland about Soul Asylum and the new record, Hurry Up and Wait. For those that don't know the backstory, of course, Soul Asylum was a Minneapolis-based band, still is. Dave went to New Orleans for a number of years, got married, had a child, got divorced, and now is back in Minneapolis. So that gets us kind of caught up to where we are now. As you mentioned, familiar confines and working once again with John Fields. How was that? How did that feel?
Like coming home, really. I mean, we used to have to fly to Los Angeles to work with him, but since he moved home and brought all his equipment with him, I mean, literally, he's over on East Street, and Byrne lives over south. I mean, it's just. I was like, dude, we spent years flying out there to get at him. Now he's just up the way. Like, let's just go, man. Because people always want to see what can happen if you involve other people or new people. And John Fields and I, we got a shorthand way of working together. And we both don't like to waste time. And, depending on the artist, that could probably be aggravating. But since Dave is so open artistically, he'll let people just kind of go and just to see what will happen. So I think that he also enjoys seeing things happen and seeing his music being interpreted and figuring out what other people think about it. And, he likes to be a fly on the wall as much as he likes to be a superstar.
There's 14 songs on this new record, Michael, and I think there were some bonus tracks for this that I was sent when I pre-ordered this, some covers in there as well. So obviously, yes, it was, I know you worked really hard on this, as you said, but you also obviously had a great time doing it, too.
We always have fun. Yes.
So tell me about the process of writing this. These songs probably pretty much come from Dave with your input. I'm guessing that's kind of how the formula works these days?
Yeah, he shows me stuff, and I go, I like this, but what else is there? I kind of rummage around his mind for the things that I feel are the most compelling. And, they're all his kids, so he doesn't feel any differently about one song to the next. So I think we've got a pretty open way of communicating about music. And Dave's got thick skin. He can take any kind of criticism as long as you are also solution oriented. Like you can't just say, I don't like this. You got to have reasons, And not only that, you got to have suggestions about where to take it from there. So I think that, after 15 years, we can almost say anything to each other, and it's still all love,
I think another cool thing that I know Dave and Ryan are doing right now is so many bands they're doing these house parties. And it's been interesting to watch the little house parties that are going on all over the world and see kind of how we're coping with this whole virus situation.
Yeah, well, I mean, the COVID-19 cut our tour by 1 week. We actually got to L.A. and had a really triumphant show, and we were supposed to play San Diego the next day, but by the end of the night, they were talking in California about people not congregating, like not over 500, and then it was 200. Same night, they were like, well, they cut it down to 200 people. And then the next day, we find out that our gig at the Belly Up Tavern in San Diego got rescheduled. We're going to make that date up in the fall. But then we heard South by Southwest was done this year, and we we basically came home right away. And that was the last time we were all in the same room together. Probably, well, we were in the bus,
Right, exactly. We're talking with Michael Bland, drummer for Soul Asylum. Let's talk about some of these songs. I think my favorite probably has Got It Pretty Good.
that was a late addition. That was one that Pern just kind of was like, whoa, wait, I got one. And he just kind of started playing it, and we kind of caught on, and it was like, well, okay, well, yeah, all right, great, let's do it.
Okay, Social Butterfly is another one that was out there before the record came out.
Yeah, we dropped it as a single. I don't know what to tell you. I think it's a really strong track. I don't know how the fans feel about it. Some nights when we performed it, it's difficult to say. It's with new material when you try to run it in front of a new audience. It's or an old audience rather. They can be fickle, lukewarm. Some nights it went over better than others, but I figured if people got familiar with it, they'd enjoy it much more. So I'm looking forward to be able to get back on the road whenever that is, and play this music now that our fans are familiar.
Michael, are you kind of the de facto kind of music director when you're playing live? Are any two shows the same, or are they all kind of different?
I go through a lot of trouble to make sure no two shows are the same.
Great.
And so does the band, because it's easy for me to say to Ryan or Jeremy or Winston, learn these, and we may get into the show at some point, and they may not. I'm always increasing the arsenal of material for us to choose from, so that we don't ever have to, just like sleepwalk. We can't sleepwalk our way through it. We can't call it in. You got to be thinking. You got to be on top of it, and you got to be ready to play. Out of there's probably 50 to 60 songs we know that we could juggle at any time. So sometimes at rehearsal, I'll just have a bonus round, and I'll just send out an email the night before saying, "Hey, let's work on these tomorrow," And we come in and we we jump in and try to keep things fresh, try to keep all the songs under our hands, under our fingers, and just try to make it a unique experience every night for the fans. They deserve it.
We're talking with Michael Bland. There's 12 Soul Asylum albums, so you do have a ton to choose from.
Yeah. Another thing is, you're never. Someone is always looking for a song that you didn't play.
Isn't that the truth? Oh, you didn't play that one.
Oh yeah. Oh, what you didn't play? You guys didn't play. What was the one? The whole tour there, Without a Trace.
Oh.
Pirner doesn't like to lean so much on the Grave Dancers Union record because that's a pigeonhole. That's a gimme. We play the hits, but he doesn't want to dwell in the past all night, and definitely he doesn't want to rest his laurels upon, rest his feet on, the biggest phenomenon of his career. He's got to keep moving forward and seek out new vistas and new sounds and just new ways of saying things. So, while, most of them would probably want us to play Grave Dancers Union from start to finish every night, you just can't do that,
I think there was a span of years where he didn't even play Runaway Train.
There was a time. He definitely didn't play it in Minneapolis. He told me that was the only way he could deal with the backlash, because what some people don't know is that the video was very conducive to, reuniting kids who were runaways, and they found some kids and they matched them back up with their families. And, what you don't hear about is that that's not always, the best thing for people. Mm. You know what I mean? There was a certain amount of backlash because some of those reunions didn't work out the way that you would hope. And I think between the phenomenon itself and the unevenness of its reception, I think Pirner did the only thing he knew to do. He's just like, let's just take it out. If they want to hear it, they can put on the record. And for many years, that's what they did. But these days, I think he's just gained perspective on his own work to the point where he doesn't, have any sort of harsh feelings about it. I mean, he sings it in a different way every night. Just his phrasing and his feeling, and it's a weird thing when the most successful or the biggest song of your catalog is darkly tinted. Like, it's not a happy song. It's, it's a song about really dealing with the human condition. And a lot of people don't realize that when artists step on stage and they sing their songs, there's a lot of emotional baggage that comes with it. A lot of tactile memories, a lot of there's just a lot going on. He's got to relive that every night when he plays that song. And it can be taxing on the spirit, I would imagine, and heavy on the soul. But, that's what it's about. That's what makes him different than the rest. Pirner has a unique viewpoint on the world, and he's not afraid to tell things the way he sees them.
Michael, you've worked obviously with Dave Pirner. You've worked with Prince. How would you say those two gentlemen are alike, work ethic wise, personality wise, if they are alike at all? Obviously, they're both songwriters, guitar players, but how would you say what are their strong points collectively?
Oh, wow. Prince was also very interested in the sharing of ideas. We didn't get credit for a lot of the work where we may have had some effect on the direction that things took or the suggestions we made. But, he was always open, always receptive and willing to try anything. Pern is like that also. And I think also another part of it is that it's always hard work. Like, Prince was a musician's musician. You know, Dave's roots are different. You know, and while their influences are as musicians, they were different. The work ethic is the same. You grind it out, man. You know, and the only way to get to it is to just hammer it down. And but I think that and even I did a recording session for Prince, and I think it was the first single from The Silver Lining came out, and he said, "How's that song doing? That song's a hit. How's it doing?" And we were working with a modest what do they call it? I can't think of the right word. Subsidiary of Sony called Legacy.
Right.
And they were mainly in the business of doing reissues, and they didn't really have a promotional budget, and so on and so forth. So, you know, the song did well considering, but, I mean, Prince was 100% convinced. I mean, he was a fan of Dave's work. He really paid attention. And, you know, and also Dave, you know, has insight into Prince's work also. He actually made me see that one of Prince's songs called The Cross was heavily influenced, or at least he heard it and said, wow, I wonder if Prince has been listening to the Velvet Underground. Like, it came off in the Minneapolis, you know, like punk rock scene, like Prince was turning on to Lou Reed, you know? And it had never occurred to me that, number one, that they were paying so close attention, but number two, that they could be right.
You were referring to the song Stand Up and Be Strong. Was that the one?
The Prince song is called The Cross. The Stand Up and Be Strong was the song Prince asked about and said, why wasn't it charting higher? He thought it was a hit record.
I thought the whole record was great.
Well, ask Eddie Trunk. It was the best record that made since Grave Dancers.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Hurry Up and Wait. And I'm looking forward to seeing it whenever this thing leaves or whatever it's going to do.
Yeah, we got to get it to let up at least a little bit. Mark, we got to get these people washing their hands and wearing masks and following all the orders because, you know, the more we do that, the quicker we'll get through it, you know. And I know there's a lot of critics out there and people, naysayers, and they don't believe it. I have a very dear friend who was stricken with the virus, and he spent 23 days in the hospital. 10 of them he spent intubated, and basically like in a coma. Mm. I mean, the coronavirus is nothing to play with, man. His name is Dan Newman. He's a musician out of Madison, Wisconsin, and he on his Facebook page he gives the full account. I mean, it's hardcore and it's real. And he's 35 and healthy. And if you're 35 and healthy and you get it, anybody can get it.
Right, exactly.
So,
yeah.
I mean, I don't mean to turn this into a PSA, but people are playing around out there, and they need to stop. I mean, is it really worth your life? Is it really worth your loved ones' lives? Because you can be an asymptomatic carrier, and not know you're giving it to the people you love. The people have just got to take it more serious. It's not something to be playing around with. So.
Yeah, I know. I have a musician friend, Lou Cavaris, out in New York. He passed away from it.
Well, God bless you, man. I'm sorry to hear.
Yeah. So, on that note, we will bend back up and, again, salute you for the new Soul Asylum record, Hurry Up and Wait. And that's what we're going to do right now. And keep rocking this record and look forward to seeing you out there when the appropriate time arises.
Well, we Jeremy and Jeremy Tapero, our bass player, and I have been watching all these these streaming, performances, and it just keeps making us. We feel left out, to be quite honest. But so we're looking forward to it more than just about anybody else. So,
Michael, thank you for your time and continued all the best.
Thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate it. Anytime.
Michael Bland from Soul Asylum on 103.7 The Fox. This is the Skaar Kaard.